Hey Warriors, welcome back to After Hours with Jimmy Thistle. Tonight or today, whenever you're really listening to it, we have an amazing guest who's called Olivia Taylor, or Liv. She's known as Sober Coaster Life on Instagram. Just an amazing story, right from the off. With Liv, you'll hear, her addiction started really early. Like a lot of us, we drank at 14, went to the park and things like that, but didn't ramp up until later. With Liv, it ramped up almost immediately, through to down to, mental health and traumas in her childhood, which you'll find out about. But just really, such a tragic tale from, drinking in the morning while being off from sixth form to spending 3 days and nights on the street, taking crack with homeless people. So it's a really, really kind of dark tale. Not a tale, actually. It's a true story. But there is hope at the end, which you'll see. And Liv's completely kind of transformed her life around, it's just an incredible story. Buckle up, sit back, get your headphones on, and listen away. Thanks, guys. See you at the end. Liv, sorry. Welcome to After Hours with me, Jimmy Thistle. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I've been looking forward to this. I'm trying to, obviously it's new with me in the podcast, so I'm kind of trying to make it so that it's my guests kind of show, if that makes sense. So you feel free to talk about whatever you want. Obviously, got a few questions, but it's just really a chat, and we want to kind of drill why we ended up the way we did. You know what I mean? It's that unfathomable question, and we want to try and get some answers from it. So you want to start by maybe telling us a little bit about your childhood and when you first had your first drink?
Yeah. Well, basically, I suffered with my mental health from a very young age. So there was a triggering event around the age of 5, which then developed into having obsessive compulsive disorder.
Mm-hmm.
And from very young age, I never slept. I had severe paranoia. I had severe OCD where I was constantly going around touching everything, moving things. And although on the outside my childhood looked very happy, typical 2.4 children family, all that type of stuff, um, what my family didn't know was I was going through really bad mental turmoil. And I remember being at school and somebody said something about schizophrenia and not understanding it. And I thought, oh, I've got that. That's why I go around touching things and stuff. I just didn't understand my mental health condition at the time. Obviously, I was a child.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I got to my early teens and I never fitted into a certain crowd. I'd float around different crowds of people, never understood myself really or my identity. And then I found alcohol around the age of 13, 14.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It seems to be a kind of similar age with a lot of people, doesn't it? Yeah. 14 for me, but yeah. So and I don't want to ask your age because I know that's rude, but you can tell me if you want. But what era was this? So would this be, I mean, I'm thinking you're in your 20s, so that would have been like the noughties, would it have been?
Yeah, so I'm 30, so it would have been, yeah, work that out. So
Yeah.
17 years ago, yeah, so early noughties, yeah.
Yeah. So I
No,
suppose things with childhood behaviors and that they didn't know as much as they do now, even going back as far as me, if people had OCD or ADHD, they didn't really kind of delve into that. And I'm sure they were learning a lot more by the noughties, but it was still a kind of unheard of thing, wasn't it? So
yeah, mental health was never something that was taught in school to me. It was never anything. I mean, even alcohol use, we'd be taught the dangers of drugs, but never be taught the dangers of alcohol, which in my eyes is a drug anyway.
And
And
kills more people.
100%. And I openly say, I mean, I have event alcohol was my main substance of choice, but I went through periods of being addicted to crack. I was on heroin at a certain point, but nothing has brought me to my knees more than alcohol has.
Yeah, yeah,
Alcohol stripped, I'm not saying that drugs don't strip everything away from you, because of course they do, but alcohol really affected me the most out of all of them. And it was always what I'd go back to. So yeah, it was
and I
pretty
think
horrific.
I know we're probably getting off, not off subject, but off your story at this point. But it's like, and that's what I said. It's just a chat, isn't it? So, but when like I heard you saying the other day about alcohol was always the one that you went back to. Now I've dabbled in drugs. I mean, I've never done crack or heroin, but for me it was like cocaine, pills, a bit of acid and things like that. But it was always the alcohol was going back, and it's trying to work out, is it because it's always available, because it's legal? But it's also that thing that you say, it's drilled into us at school. Drugs are bad, drugs are bad. Alcohol's okay. Do what you like with that. Whereas
Yeah.
it's possibly one of the worst ones. But yeah.
And I think as well, for me, my drug addiction was more hidden, where everybody knew I had a problem with drink, but nobody really knew about my problems around drugs. So because it was more hidden and I tried to keep that more privately, I'd go away to Birmingham and big cities and be around certain people and binge it.
Yeah.
But then when I come back home, around everybody else, it was always drinks.
Yeah.
But one thing, I mean, a lot of people don't take crack and heroin while and drink on top of it. I would always be drinking, whether I was smoking severe class A drugs, I would still. It was the psychology in me, and that I still have to have a drink, even though I'm taking these class A drugs. So
Yeah.
drink was always a big problem.
And how did that affect you? Because I know that, and this is what I learned with when I was ever taking cocaine, it would sober me up so I could continue drinking and drinking for days. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like I would just get to a point where I black out and then I wake up the next day with an excruciating hangover. If I was doing coke as well, you could just keep going, and it was almost like you weren't drunk for a certain point. So how was that on like the crack, for instance? I mean, crack is essentially a derivative of cocaine anyway, so it's maybe similar.
Yeah, it is similar, but you kind of you don't notice the effects of the alcohol, but I always felt that the alcohol exasperated the effects of the crack.
Yeah,
So it again, like alcohol and cocaine form a different drug within your system. I assume crack does the same, mixing crack and alcohol together.
hmm,
And I'd always seem a lot more high than the people that were just taking crack. Whereas in it sobers you up with cocaine,
yeah,
it's it exasperate. Yeah, it's very different taking crack and alcohol compared to cocaine and alcohol, in my opinion.
yeah. And it's, I mean, obviously, it's madness either way. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, taking crack and then drinking on top of that, or either way, it's this pure madness. So how did your drinking from 13, 14 then escalate through your kind of school years and
So I was started off the usual drinking down the park and all that kind of stuff and whatever, and then I would drink to excess compared to others. Others knew when to stop, but and I noticed from a young age that that didn't apply to me. But then when I got to around the age of 17, 18, my mum and dad's relationship um, broke down. And after
Mhm.
30, my dad just upped and left.
Right.
And I had at the time glandular fever, so I was off sixth form. So I was at home from sixth form, and I just started drinking in the mornings. Then I was so by the age of 17, 18, I was drinking in the mornings,
Wow.
and to just deal with my emotions. I couldn't cope with my emotions. I felt more like my world was falling apart, that my mum and dad had split up, and then I also couldn't keep on top of my schoolwork because of this glandular fever and being off. Glandular fever also changed my appearance, so I literally, I just looked like a different person where all my glands had swollen, and it was only for a short period of time.
Yeah,
But as a young girl at that age,
yeah,
I just couldn't cope with that, and everything felt so massively overwhelming then.
yeah.
And the only way I knew what would help it at the time was drinking. And it was around after Christmas time, so there was a lot of drink in the house. I was still living with my mum and dad, well, now just my mum at the time.
Hmm.
And there was all this drink in the house, and that was it. And then as soon as I started drinking in the mornings, I couldn't stop. That was it then. It was just like I'd hit that button where addiction just flew.
Yeah, well, you're dependent on it at that point. I mean, my drinking in the morning didn't really start. I mean, it did on occasion, but that was more like, oh, we're at uni or we're at college, we can go and have, a drink. There was a bar in Aberdeen that was open from 7 o'clock in the morning, so you could just go in there. It was for all the guys coming off the boats and stuff, so you could just go in there. You won't remember a program called The Big Breakfast. That was like the morning show on Channel 4. Chris Evans started on it. And I couldn't believe, like, we were sat in this pub sitting watching the big breakfast with all these old men drinkers and all that. And that was fun at that point. But towards the end, my drinking started in the morning, and it was because I was dependent, like you were at that such an early age, Liv. I mean, that's and I guess with your mental health that you were dealing with, and obviously the parents splitting up, glandular fever, I've heard, is so painful. So all of these mixtures, the booze was just your escape, and probably taking away the pain as well.
It was a massive escapism for me. And what was the thing then, which I never even crossed my mind at the time, because I was so consumed by the pain and getting rid of the pain I was feeling mentally, physically, and everything else, was that it never even crossed my mind at the time I was drinking on my own and drinking of a morning. It never kind of registered with me
Yeah.
that this is wrong at that time. It, not that it didn't register, but not that I just didn't care enough. It was taking away the pain, so I just didn't care the fact that I was doing it on my own and in the morning.
Hmm.
And so yeah, and then it's a bit of a mad story, but because my parents split up and I had all these issues around my dad and whatever, where I was a sales advisor at the time, and my boss at the time, I ended up getting into a coercive relationship with him.
Right.
He
Right.
was much, much older than me.
Yeah.
And my mental health was breaking down. So sorry, I would have left sixth form at this point, and then I
And
was
then
meant,
got a job. Yeah. Yeah.
meant to be going to university and all that. Didn't happen. And I ended up getting a job being a sales advisor. And my boss at the time, I ended up getting into a really bad coercive relationship with him. He
Hmm.
was much older than me. And I look back now, and it was a form of grooming, to be
Yeah.
brutally
You were
honest. It was
vulnerable.
not going to sugarcoat it. It was a form of grooming, and within months, he took me away from my family. He'd isolated me from everyone. So, as you can imagine, my drinking then just escalated even more. And I ended up getting pregnant by this man. I didn't want to tell him. My plan was to sneak off and terminate the baby. He found out. He forced me into keeping it, never let me out of his sight. It was just horrific. And
How long did
I was
this go on for then? I mean,
about 6 years.
wow. Wow.
Yeah. So from 18 to like
24. Yeah.
4-ish, 23, 24. Yeah. And I obviously wouldn't change my daughter for the world. She's the most incredible thing ever. But yeah, that unfortunately was how she came about. And I didn't drink or use any drugs or anything like that. And at this point, I was just dabbling in drugs like cocaine and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
like
Uh,
party drugs kind of thing. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I never touched a drop of anything for the 9 months I was pregnant. But what I did experience in those 9 months was mental torture. My brain was just off.
Hmm.
Um,
It's so amazing that I hear time and time again on podcasts and people I speak to when and you know they've been full blown alcoholics. I don't like the word, but do you know what I mean? And they have stopped for the 9 months. It's just that kind of, and I don't know what it is. It's obviously that whole, you know, you've got this child growing inside you, so that kind of supersedes whatever needs you have, whether you're physically dependent or not. I'm sure you probably had to go through withdrawal when you
yeah.
found out, and then you go straight back to it. And that's the thing. It's like it's okay because the doctors have said this is going to harm your baby, but as soon as you've, you know, had given birth, then you go back to harming yourself. It's just this weird kind of dynamic, isn't it?
The only thing I could think of really was just the hormonal changes and everything in a woman's body. It kind of instinctively felt I just like I couldn't touch a drink, and instinctively it
Yeah.
was just not to drink. Like, and then the second she was born, like you say, I went straight back to it. And when I finally escaped this relationship,
Mm-hmm.
um, which was all a big long thing of doing that, but once I finally escaped that, I then struggled being alone because I didn't know how to be alone. I had this young child, I didn't know how to be alone. And I got into a relationship with somebody my age,
Mm-hmm.
somebody that at the time helped me escape by being just young and free and wild and no responsibilities,
Yeah.
just probably like a normal person our age.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
The problem with that was I was a mother
Yeah.
that was trying any way to escape herself.
Yeah.
And I went out and partied and that with him and chased the drink and chased the drugs and all that type of thing. But where he could do it on a weekend, I just took it to an excess. And in that period of time, I was doing a lot more cocaine. I was drinking back every day, all day. I would there was incidences where I took my daughter to nursery and I was off my head and the childminder had to get involved and all these things like this. And that was at the point really where I was like, I love my daughter so much, but I can't stop doing this. I
Yeah.
can't look after her. I can't physically look after her. I can't look after myself. I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
My mind was just wake up in the morning, get my fix, and keep going. And every morning I'd wake up and say, right, I'm just going to have a couple of vodkas to help me with the withdrawals. And it would never happen.
Yeah.
And it would just be a horrific cycle. So I went into my first treatment centre.
Mm-hmm. And what age were you about here at this point?
So I'd have been about 25.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
All happened quite quick. So Layla was born. Layla was born when I was 20, nearly 22, and then I got away from John when she was about 1.5. So I'd have been about 23, 24. So yeah, about 25.
Yeah.
And um and yes, I went into my first treatment centre with an alcohol and cocaine addiction as it was perceived.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I knew I wanted to be a good mom and I knew that what I was doing was wrong, but boy, did I not know I was not ready. And I went into this treatment centre listening to all these people, just hearing the worst case scenarios of other people and thinking, I'm nowhere near that bad. I've still got time in me. I'm fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it.
And I left that treatment centre and spent 3 days on the street smoking crack and heroin straight away.
Straight away. How long were you in the treatment for? Was it 28 days?
3 months.
3 months. Wow. So it was a long one. Wow. And
And
you
I just
actually
couldn't cope anymore. My head had just gone. This one day, my head had just gone and I left. Didn't tell anybody I was leaving. I packed my stuff and I left. And I was on the streets in this city. I didn't know where I was, what I was doing. But what I picked up on whilst in that treatment centre was listening to people's stories. And this is the insanity of
Hmm.
what we do, is that I was listening to all these stories of people taking crack and I'm thinking, that sounds all right. And it's mental. And I remember somebody in the treatment centre saying that they used to get drugs off homeless people. So I
You,
left it.
yeah.
So I left this treatment centre and I'd got a fair bit of money in my account because I was being paid this sick pay, but obviously not spending it and whatever. So I
Yeah.
had a whack of money in my account where I was living from basically hand to mouth before because everything was going on booze and whatever. And
Yeah, well, you've saved for 3 months because you've been in there not touching it. So you've just been cashing it in the bank. And yeah, and
exactly.
the thing is, in there, you've not been listening for the similarities. You've been listening for the differences, going, that's not me. I'm fine. I'm not like these guys. Yeah, I did the same. It's
Yeah, 100%. And then I went and I remember picking up this bottle of wine from the shop round the corner, down in this bottle of wine, and this homeless guy coming up to me and saying, have you got any change? And I turned around to him and said, have you got any crack?
now, Liv, had you done any crack before that? No. Wow.
No. And that was it. I spent 3 days on the streets smoking crack and heroin. I got robbed blind off people, where
Yeah.
I was high as a kite, having a new experience I never had before, and that was that. And my family had filed a missing persons out against me because I just left this treatment centre and disappeared. And
And so,
then
sorry to but but how? So you're from Birmingham, yeah?
I'm from Staffordshire, Shropshire way. You know Kate you spoke to the other day?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
live 20 minutes away from her.
Right. Okay. Okay. Because I know your accent's kind of Brummy, but then I was thinking, oh, is it more Wolverhampton way? So I didn't.
I grew up around Wolverhampton. That's why I've got such a black country accent. But
Right, right. Because I mean, the accent's quite similar. Probably not to you, but I was like, I'm gonna say Wolverhampton, but then I heard you talking about Birmingham in the sister spat. So how far away from your home was the treatment centre?
about an hour away. Wasn't
Right.
that
So
far, but
no,
it.
but enough for you to go missing, obviously, and yeah, yeah, and then disappear into the woodwork. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what happened after 3 days? Did you say that was?
yeah, 3 days and nights on the streets. And then I kind of come to and I was like, where am I? What am I doing? And I walked into this hotel lobby and says, I need to call somebody. And then I must have still been out of it, but in my head, I was having a sober moment like, shit, I need to get back to my family. I've just been robbed blind, all this. I've just spent 3 nights smoking crack. What am I doing? And
But you
I,
obviously looked a mess, and you've no phone at this point. That's been robbed. Yeah.
well, no, I had no phone anyway because my mom had took that with her when I went
Oh,
to the treatment centre. So all I had was my ID on me, which I used to go and get money out of the bank with. 'Cause I
right,
know my
right.
details and my ID, yeah. So I didn't even have a bank card, but I still managed to get obviously all my money out of the account. So I was walking around on the streets with a wad of cash on me and very
You know
vulnerable.
what? It's amazing how crafty and smart we can be when it comes to funding our addiction, just all the lengths that you go to. And I just say to people, like, if you can put half of that effort into getting sober, then you're 90% there. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And she must have called the police, this woman in this hotel lobby, and the police come and sent me back home. And then basically over the next few years, it's me just constantly trying to get sober. It's in and out of bad relationships. It's all this just turmoil and pain. I went into a dry house for a bit. Um, and
Well, it's the
I've done
hamster wheel, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what it was for a
It
few
just,
years.
yeah, yeah. And then you think, I'm all right, I'm good. And maybe you'll get that for me, it was like maybe a week or two, and then I would stop looking great. And I was like, oh, this hasn't killed me. I can have a glass of wine tonight. And then all
Yeah,
bets are off. So how did that and obviously I love your podcast and we'll talk about that at the end, but it's Charlotte's your sister's name, isn't it?
yeah,
How much younger is she than you?
5 years.
Right, that's what I was thinking. And so how is that affecting her and your mum? Like obviously you've just come back after rehab, which they're hoping to get, their sister and daughter back all clean and fresh, and you've just come back after 3 days and nights on the streets smoking crack. I mean, what's
So when I went into that treatment centre, I gave up my house and everything to just start afresh and rehabilitate myself. So I had to come back to my parents' house
yeah.
and my mum and well, my mum and my sister's house.
Hmm.
And my sister at this point had washed her hands of me. She didn't want anything to do with me.
Right.
My mum always stuck by my side, but I put her through that much mental torture and pain. But she just wanted to save her daughter, but
Yeah.
not knowing how. And bless my mum, she's constantly been in the middle of supporting my sister and not letting her be subject to the aggression and the dangers that my addiction was bringing, but
Hmm.
then also try and stop her other daughter from dying. So my mom was constantly stuck in the middle of us two fighting, basically.
Yeah.
Um, but then what I did after being in and out of different places and whatever, I went into this dry house and I got about 5 months sober behind me and I started to feel so much better and all this. And then I got into a relationship with another addict. He was clean and sober. We moved to Shropshire. We were going to live the high life. Everything was perfect
Yeah.
until one day we had a little bit of a tiff and I went and brought a bottle of wine and within the week we were smoking crack together and it just yeah, so I was drinking, binging on crack with him and that was horrific. We were fighting, we were getting into all sorts of trouble and that come to an end when he bundled me in the car and ran me off the road at 90 miles an hour, trying to kill us both deliberately because I wouldn't give him money for crack. And how we got out of that, I mean, it broke my chest bone. I was obviously black and blue. There's a lot of domestic violence, all this sort of stuff. And it was hell because this person, in my eyes, when he was sober, he was fantastic. But then when he was an addict, he was horrific. And I couldn't quite I couldn't quite believe that this person had done this to me.
Hmm.
And then what followed from that is me just shutting off the world. So I wasn't taking any drugs at the time, but what I did do was just lock myself. I lived in I still live in this house now.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a three-story house, and I just locked myself in the top bedroom and drank myself to oblivion and spoke to nobody. I
Hmm.
cut my phone off, I cut contact with my daughter, I cut absolutely everything off and then just ignored everybody. And I got to the point where I was like, I've tried that many different ways to get clean and sober, nothing's working. Every time I feel like I'm getting worse, I'm just going to end my life.
Yeah.
And I had it all planned out. I'd spoken to somebody where I knew I could get fentanyl and all these sort of different things. I,
Jesus.
I'd wrote suicide notes out to everybody, and I just spoke to nobody, and that was my plan.
Yeah.
I thought everyone was better off without me. I was an absolute failure because I tried to get clean and sober and just couldn't do it. And what happened was, and now call this what you want, I'm not necessarily a believer in God or anything, but this was some form of divine intervention where my phone rang. And this was a couple of days after I'd wrote the suicide notes, and I was at peace with the fact that this was going to happen
Yeah.
at some point. It was
Yeah.
kind of when
Just going
and
through the motions. Yeah. Yeah.
my phone rang, and I was not answering my phone or anything like that. It was surprising that my phone was on. Tell
Hmm.
you what, phone was on because I was using my data to connect to the telly because I hadn't paid the Wi-Fi bill. So that's why my phone was on, and my and the phone rang, and I didn't recognise the number. And I don't know whether in my head it was a dealer or whatever, but it was a number I didn't recognise. And I answered the phone, and it was a lady that I was a key worker that I was doing work with in the past that says, I know you're struggling and I've got you a 6 month stay in a rehab up in Manchester. And I went, and my first reaction was like, well, I'm not going. I've got other plans.
Yeah.
I'd come to terms with all what I was gonna do, and then I was like, okay, well, let's give it one last fight. Let's give it,
What have you got to lose at this point? Yeah.
yeah, give it one last go. I had to call the doctors to get because this wasn't a detox center. This was just like a rehab treatment center. So I was like, how am I going to do? Like, I've got I think I had like 4 days before I was going in to detox myself off this drink because my key worker basically lied to him. She was just desperate to save my life. She knew how bad. And so I rang the doctors and managed to get a load of diazepam out of them, basically. And and this was 2 years ago, and so I'd have been 28 by now, and I literally detoxed myself on these diazepam for a few days and when I went in there, I was nuts. I was hallucinating. I was off the wall. I was balmy.
And so yeah, you saying that this was not a detox place at all. This was just you get clean and sober, and then we'll do the rest. Wow.
So
I
I was
mean,
just making a load of diazepam to just try and help with the withdrawals and whatever. And I had this prescription for diazepam, so I lied to the treatment centre and says, "Oh, it's a regular prescription for anxiety." How I got away with it all, I don't know. Like I say, there was many things in the way I got clean and sober. It was some form of luck was on. You know what I mean? It was just unreal, really, when I look back. And I basically, this treatment centre not only worked on my addictions, but my mental health. The therapy in there was second to none. And I knew I had to get everything out. If I really wanted to get clean and sober for my daughter and for myself, I had to get everything out. And I was so honest with this therapist, and we worked through everything together. And I stayed in there for 6 months. I was still able to see my family and my daughter on weekends. And I worked so goddamn hard. And it just changed. Everything just changed in me. Because they did what's called dialectical behavioural therapy, which is now what my career is come from it, basically.
Yeah, DBT, yeah.
And it was a lot of DBT work, and it just helped me massively. My whole mindset changed. And I learned to sit with myself for the first time ever. I picked up painting again, which I hadn't done since a kid. And I just really worked on regulating my emotions and not running away from myself.
Yeah.
And it just changed everything. And I was so scared to come out of that treatment centre and go back to the house where I'd done all my using and drinking in for a couple of years prior. And I come out and I just redecorated everything, stripped everything back. I changed my house around in about a week. And I mean, decorated everything like I was like a mad woman.
Yeah.
But I knew I had to do that. And
you didn't want any kind of reminders, and it was like returning to the scene of the crime almost. Yeah.
Yeah, and I knew I had to do that if I was going to stay in that house. And that house the house that is a beautiful house in the middle of the countryside, and I knew it would always be a fantastic place to be sober in.
Yeah, you just had to get there.
I just had to get there, yeah. And I just worked so hard just doing the basic things of meditating, learning, journaling, getting out for walks every day, just the simple stuff, and learn to love life again.
Yeah.
And then after a while, I was like, I need a purpose. I need something more than this. This is all well and good, like me living on benefits and taking each day as it comes, but I've got quite a busy brain underneath this that needs to be used in a positive way.
Hmm.
And that's where Sober Coaster come into it. And I'd already got this sober Instagram account and whatever. And
You know, because
I
I was looking today. You can check on your Instagram, and I believe I started following you in 2021. So that must have been one of your previous kind of sober periods, because that's not the sober period you're on now, is it?
no, so that would have been when I that about that 5 months I got sober
Yeah,
with the
yeah, yeah,
boyfriend and everything. So I've been sober nearly 2 years now.
yeah.
So
Well
so
done.
yeah,
Well done.
that would have been beforehand. And I so I'd already got this sober Instagram account and whatever, and I did load of qualifications because I knew I wanted to give back to people.
Yeah.
So and the rehab I was in funded me to do load of qualifications and
Oh,
stuff. So I've
wow.
got an advanced diploma in addiction work, and then I got a qualification in DBT and ACT therapy and all this. And I was like, I'm going to start putting these qualifications that I've learned to good use, and
Hmm.
created my own course that brought DBT and addiction together, and then went from there really. Then got my coaching qualifications, and this was all in a very short space of time. This was
Oh,
all.
absolutely.
Well, I'm an addict, so I don't do things by halves. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to go full head boat. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And that's the thing. Like, I think it's absolutely amazing because, there are a lot of people that get sober for 3 months and then they're a sober coach. Do you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, are you? You've done all the work, you've done all the qualifications, which is so commendable. And I think it's the way forward for people who are trying to get into recovery. They only want to listen to people that have been there and been through
Yeah.
it themselves. So, I've just qualified as a peer mentor. So I'm going to start working in we've got a charity over in the Isle of Man called Motivate, which is an amazing charity, and it's what got me sober. But what I was going to say was there just seems to be this point where we just click. Like the previous time when you got sober for 5 months, I bet you didn't feel like you'd had that change. That
No.
was just, you were just kind of treading water, whatever, and then it just clicks, doesn't it? And it's really hard to put like my finger on what actually happened to me, but I'd gone for a final detox in hospital over here, and I just said to myself, if they give me the Librium, if I'm going to go through with this, I just need to do everything that is humanly possible for me to get sober and stay sober. And yeah, it's all about doing the work, and clearly you have as well. What would you say was your darkest point in the whole of this at this point?
So at the time, it didn't actually feel like my darkest point.
Hmm.
But I'd obviously got to the point where I wanted to end my life, and but I look back, I was content with that. I was happy that that was a choice. It founded like, oh, I can finally escape myself for good. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But when I think of my addiction now, and I think back to the times over the years, it was just that utter pain of when I didn't have a drink inside of me.
yeah,
And people say, oh, the pain of the addiction. But no, for me, it was the pain. Yes, okay, the addiction caused all these consequences, and that sober pain to be 50 times worse.
hmm,
It was not having a substance inside of me and that pain. So
hmm,
I knew I had to deal with me and what I was like without a substance inside of me. And I really, really worked on the way my thought processed and all that type of stuff because I was at my most pain when I was sober.
yeah.
And but obviously addiction and all the consequences and everything, my my thoughts sober were 10 times worse because of the chaos I'd caused in addiction. And it's just that horrible hamster wheel.
It seems
But
to be like the only disease where we think. So the thing that's actually killing us and bringing us all the pain and anguish and causing all the problems in our life, that is in our minds the cure for all of it, because we
yeah,
just we just think, right, to hell with everything. The only thing that's going to make everything go away for a short period of time. But you're not thinking about that. You're just thinking about right here, right now, and it's just dive to the bottom of that bottle or ingest that substance. It's pure madness, as you say.
madness. And you know what's so lovely? I now live in the here and now, but not for a short-term fix. I live in the here and now to enjoy my present moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't, and it's getting rid of that obsession, that constant chasing, and that obsession to just escape your feelings and to wake up with a peace of mind, just without craving, without obsessing over something. I never thought I could ever get to a point in my life where I look back and think, I don't want to ever drink again. And that's the thing, I don't want to now. When I got sober for those 5 months, I wanted to drink, I just didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Now
You were
I
white
don't.
knuckling it and you were like, right, I'll do this today and I'll do this today. But you're not ready. It's almost like that dry drunk thing, you're just like, but now it's like I can easily say I'm never gonna have a drink again, because I don't want to have a drink again. And it's not like I'm having to go to meetings to, get rid of the cravings and all that. That side of it is just gone from me now. I mean, never say never, but you know what? I know it's one day at a time, but for me, nah, I don't even. The thought of it will pop in, but it doesn't stay for long. And it's not as if I'm going, oh my God, I'd love one of them. It's just I'm so done with it. And so that leads me to, what are your thoughts on, I mean, I know the drugs as well, but what are your thoughts on alcohol? Because let's be honest, alcohol is a legal drug at this point. What are your thoughts on it?
I believe there needs to be such a bigger education around the dangers of it from schools and from a younger age. For me, it is a drug.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, let's face it, in the UK, we will never get rid of alcohol while it's bringing in so much money, and that's the
Absolutely.
problem.
Yeah.
Um, and I have this debate with my mum all the time, and she says, "Well, drugs causes crime and this and that and whatever." And I'm like, have you looked at the statistics of the alcohol related crimes? Have you looked at the statistics of what it's caused, the money it's causing, like it's
Yeah.
having on the NHS? Get me words out.
Yeah.
Um,
Go to any big city in the UK on a Friday and Saturday night, and the police are out in force because of the fights. That's not drugs. That's the alcohol that's causing that.
and then you have things like where that money should be put into where you hear all these cases of children being abused that go under the radar and all these different much worthier things. But until as a UK we get educated on the effects of alcohol,
Yeah.
it'll never. And I have seen a generational shift though. Like I look at my sister's generation, she's only a few years younger than me, 5 years younger than me, and you can slowly see how the world is getting more sober, but we're a long way off it yet. Of
It's we're such a long way off. I mean, I was chatting to someone the other night, and we were talking about how cigarettes way back in, like, the 30s, 40s, 50s, it was like a status thing. It was like, how did you smoke? What did you smoke? It wasn't like, did you smoke or didn't you smoke? Everybody smoked. That was just it. It was cheap. And then obviously the dangers were discovered, and people started going. So then they had the packets, had all the warnings on them. Now you don't even, I don't think they've even got branding on the packets now. If you see them, they all look the same and they've all got the warnings on them. Now alcohol at this point only says drink responsibly. Now, to me, that's like, the more I think about, because that phrase, or that slogan, or that warning, it really winds me up. It really pisses me off, because the more I think about it, the more I see in it. Like, first of all, to drink responsibly, they're going, right, you go and drink responsibly. Now, that's not on us anymore. If you can't do that, then it's not our fault. Whatever you go and do, whether you end up getting a disease or you get in a fight or you get yourself killed, that's not our fault. We as the manufacturers have warned you already. But then, if you look at it, drink responsibly, like, what does alcohol do? It diminishes your responsibility. Like, how it's like 90% of people that are drinking are a little bit less responsible than when before they had that first drink. And more than that, they're probably really irresponsible. So how can you actually say have a drink but then be responsible? Do you know what I mean? And that just, it pisses me off so much.
My mum's only got to have one glass of red wine and she's standing on her head thinking she can do gymnastics and all sorts. Like it affects everybody differently. You
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
put a generalized slogan on it. And the thing is as well, in France, they don't advertise alcohol. So like where you see advertisements on our tellies where it's all parties and people enjoying drinking, social gatherings and
yeah.
all that. In France, all that they can actually advertise is things like the grape that's in the wine and the
Oh,
ingredients that are in the wine. And if you look at their alcohol issues over there, it is a lot less because of the way it's marketed. It's marketed as something that you have with your food, and they market it as the ingredients in there. They don't market it as partying and having fun. As a country, we are obsessed with alcohol and having fun. You go to a wake, you drink because you're sad. You go to a wedding, you drink because you're happy. Any emotion in is linked back to alcohol.
yeah.
And until we change all that marketing and that mindset around it, we're still going to constantly have all these issues.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I mean, you say I know what you're saying about, the celebration, the commiseration, but even like going for a hike, it's like, oh, we'll do the hike, and then we'll finish in a lovely little pub. We'll have a Sunday roast, and we'll have a pint. I used to do a lot of running, and I'm trying to get back into it. But at the end of any of my like a 5K or 10K, there was always a little bar at the end. They had these beers, these lagers that were isotonic, so it put the what are they called? Anyway, put all the nutrients back into you after you'd run. And it's like, but why are you offering that? This should be fitness and healthy. I think Australia, America, and Germany are starting to put on the label that alcohol causes cancer.
Yeah.
And it's up to seven, I think there's seven types of cancers. Do you know what they are?
I don't know the cancers, but I know that it is seven cancers. But my mom's a senior biomedical scientist, so she deals with all like different cancers and what it affects. And my mom is big on all that type of stuff. And for me, she watched her daughter dying from like the inside out. She was like, "You don't understand the dangers this is doing to your body."
Yeah.
But you've got liver cancer, lung cancer, esophageal, throat
Yeah.
cancer is a big one that people don't think about. Bladder cancer, breast cancer.
So
Two glasses. Sorry, go
somebody asked me the other day, and I felt it was one of my customers when we were out working in the garden, and I said, oh, it's like seven types of cancer. And she said, what are they? And I was like, oh, I don't know. So I've looked it up. I've got it here in front of me. There's
on.
mouth, there's upper throat, larynx, esophagus, breast, liver, and bowel. And I always thought pancreatic cancer was brought on by alcohol as well, because I know that it does affect the pancreas, but it's not on that list anyway. But those, I mean, that's like, why is that not being put on bottles? When I was in my worst drinking, and I wasn't educating myself because drinking was just normalized. It was normalized behavior. So I just, was cracking on. I knew I had an issue, but I didn't know it was causing me any of these potentially lethal diseases. And that's just the cancers. Let's not talk about all of the rest of the things, but it's just, it stops the cell division, I believe, and then it confuses the cells, which is just, that's rife for cancer. So
Reducing
I
the
just,
brain cancer as well. It's essentially killing off our brain cells.
yeah,
So
yeah,
literally dumbing us down.
yeah.
Madness.
And that's the thing. It's the whole point of like, and I don't know if you get it, but like when I've been out a few times, and then this whole thing, like people saying, "Oh, what do I say to people when I'm not when I want to go out and I'm not wanting to drink?" I say, "Well, just tell them." And if they want to turn around to you and say, "Oh, you're boring" or whatever, just say, "Why am I boring if you're the one that needs to drink to have a good time?" And that's what we need to start like drumming back at them because
An Instagram post saying exactly that is where, because you see a lot of people saying, like, giving you ideas of what to say when
yeah,
on Instagram when somebody offers you a drink. I just say no. And if they keep questioning me why, it's like, F off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't drink. If you drink, that's fine. If
yeah,
you have got a problem with me not drinking, then you need to look at your relationship with alcohol. I'm fine in my own lane, thanks. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's I'm like very cutthroat about that. went to my dad's 60th birthday party last summer, and
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of like the hidden child, and like everyone was asking me, well, go on, have a drink. Why? I'm an alcoholic. I'm this, I'm that, and I was exaggerating it. I was exaggerating the terminology
Yeah,
just
yeah,
because
yeah.
just because I was being an arsehole and the wind-up merchant, to be honest. But I was like, I've told you no once. Why have you got to keep going at me? You know what
Well,
I mean?
it's that whole thing. If someone comes up to you, they don't anymore, but if they come up to you and offered you a cigarette or some crack, do you know what I mean? You say no, they're not going to keep asking you. But alcohol, it's normalized to go, oh, what do you mean? You obviously are boring. You're obviously what but then when I tell people no, like I'm sober, and that's normally enough to them to go, oh, right, okay. And there's that whole stigma of alcoholic, but a lot more people are open to hearing about it now, and they're like, "Oh, do you want to talk about it?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, of course I like to talk about it. I want to try and let you know what you're doing is it's poisonous, you know. And if you're okay with it, and you're only having a few every now and then I've no beef with you. I don't have a beef with anyone, but I just want to try and educate people from when because I didn't know. Do you know what I mean? You know, I wouldn't say I became an alcoholic. Nobody becomes an alcoholic, but I might have tried to get treatment or stop it earlier if I knew how much damage it was actually doing, you know. And you come out with a clean bill of health.
So when I went into the last treatment centre that got me sober, my liver was under a lot of pressure. I got told by the doctor that I'd be dead by now. And they said if you carry on, your liver's starting to fail. If you carry on, at the moment it's repairable,
Yeah,
but if
yeah,
you carry on, you've literally got about 12 months in you if you carry on at the rate that you're drinking. And I still carried on for a good few months after that.
yeah.
But when,
It's not enough, is it?
no, but luckily, by the grace of God, my last liver function test was all okay. It was in the normal range.
Amazing,
Thing I
amazing.
see now is like acid and stuff like that from drinking neat vodka over all the years. It's messed up my esophagus a bit, but apart from that, I'm in a clean bill of
Good.
health. But
Yeah,
mentally,
yeah.
people forget about this organ that we need to look after, and mentally, my brain, I've completely rewired it. I've done a lot of
Yeah.
rewiring work, and yeah, I've never been happier.
And did you go like into kind of hermit state when you first got sober and clean, or did you just throw yourself into looking after? Is it Leah? It's a beautiful name, by the way,
Layla.
Layla. And yeah, did you just throw yourself into that, and then like educating yourself on you know kind of becoming an alcohol and drug advisor?
I learned to enjoy life at home again, and I just surrounded myself with my loved ones, building those relationships, and I studied hard. I was learning hell of a lot, and I was educating myself a lot,
Yeah, yeah,
and I was kind of stripping my life back to basics. So I was learning to just get out and enjoy nature. I was
yeah.
learning to study again. I was learning how to be a mom properly for the first time, really, because I just had addiction, all this, and it was it was like learning everything all over again. And I spent a good first 6 months back at home just being, learning to be,
Hmm.
and yeah, and then my world started opening up more with new opportunities and that. And if an opportunity comes my way and it aligns with my values, I just say yes to it and I go for it. And my fear's gone now. I haven't got that fear anymore.
That's good. That's good. And so, like you said, you're 30, you're obviously still massively young, and I've got a guy coming on who he used to, I think he's like 3 months just behind me, so he'll be about 4 years now. And he was 28 when he got sober, so he still was in that whole going out with his mates and doing this, and he didn't want to kind of miss out on that. So he forced himself to kind of go to like stag do's, and this is why I want to get him on because I don't know how he did it. I was quite lucky the fact that I was 40, so I could just kind of go, I'm not going out. I don't want to go to nightclubs or anything like that. But I guess with you being a mother as well, it was easy. But this is the thing. Do we need to do these things? Like this is not like what you're saying there about getting out into nature and learning to love life from that way. Going out to nightclubs and bars and restaurants and all that, that's not just what life's about. Do you know what I mean? There's
Doesn't
so much other stuff.
And it doesn't excite me either. And the thing is, my addiction from a very early age isolated me. So I didn't really do a lot of that anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, there's been lots of times I've gone out and it's like been bars and whatever, and I just look around and I'm like, I don't fit in these situations now, and I don't get FOMO. I get fear of being out and not staying at home with my two cats reading a book. That is,
Well, it's joy, it's JOMO, isn't it? Joy of missing out.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I love it now. And I always say I'm an introvert that loves to talk. That's I
Right.
love my own company and I love being on my own. But then you get me around people and I won't shut up. But it's so nice to enjoy both sides of it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
No, I hear you. And how old is Layla now?
8. She's 8, bless
Eight.
her.
Wow. Right.
Eight
Okay.
going on, yeah, she's at 22, but she's 8 going on 18. But you know what, Jimmy? We have got the best relationship.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, it makes me emotional because
Mm.
to have that
Oh,
bond
sorry.
that we've got now and to think that I nearly walked away from it all by ending it all, and just that I'm just so glad that I found that fight in me, because I look at her every day and my heart fills with gratitude that I'm so lucky to still have her in my life after all the things that I've done in my life. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
so grateful I'm still a mother and we've got a fantastic relationship. She's just incredible.
Well, you've obviously had something kind of, like you're saying, that phone call. There's obviously some kind of, and I'm not religious, but, talk about higher powers and things like that. To me, it's the universe. The universe was obviously looking out for you on so many occasions, and it's gone, do you know what, Liv, this is the right path for you now. You've got purpose here, so you're not going to waste it on that. But would you, and I like to ask my guests this, so if you could go back to your, say, 13, 14-year-old self and said, right, there's two paths here. There's one where you don't drink or use drugs and all that, and that's your life there. Or there's this other path, the one that you're on, and you lead to being who you are right now. You know, would you go back and stop it all and miss out on and not have all that in your life?
Easy question. I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Because and I had a coffee with my friend a while back and we was on about this and she asked me the same thing. She's like, "What, you wouldn't change a thing?" Yeah. If I could have gone through my journey without hurting the people I love, obviously I'd
Obviously,
change
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But in regards to me and my own pain, I wouldn't change a thing because I wouldn't have done all the self-development work. I wouldn't have become the person that I am today and wake up each and every day grateful and happy. So no, I wouldn't. I'd let little Olivia go through all that and go through all that pain and just say to her, you know what, life's gonna get fucking good when you come out the other end.
Yeah, 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 and obviously support her. But I'm exactly the same. Like I wouldn't be the same person if I chose that other path. I'm sure I'd be, some kind of nice guy, but I might be a little bit more boring than I am now because I haven't got the experience and all that. And I think it does to come out the other side. And sadly, so many people don't. I mean, I think the recovery rate's some pathetic, like 2% of people that are in addiction. So something more needs to be done. The government needs to step up and spend their money on, trying to have more treatment centers, more just more people, more doctors and support workers available, because it's really abysmal. There's people getting turned away because they're not addicted enough, and those people are ending up getting, 6 feet under. It's yeah, it's so sad.
Well, look,
Um
that whole cycle of right, we can't deal with your mental health until you sort addiction. But I said, I can't sort my addiction out because of my mental. It's that cycle.
Yeah.
And the government bang on about how much pressure the NHS is under. But maybe if you fund a load of treatment centres and help addicts, that'll take a couple of how million off the pressure of the.
Oh, absolutely. Or if they stop the alcohol companies regulating themselves, because they're just a law unto themselves. There's no regulation. They can advertise aiming it towards, like, there's a great podcast. So Sober Dave had this lady on, and I've forgotten her name in the podcast. I'll put it in the show notes at the end, but it's like she used to work for an advertising firm, and she's in recovery herself, and whenever they got a contract with an alcohol firm, it was like, oh, ka-ching, we're going for this one because the alcohol companies just throw money. She said she sat in a meeting with these big alcohol execs where they're saying, right, this is the advertising plan. We've got the old people that prop up the bars, they're sorted. We don't need to encourage them to drink anymore. Middle-aged people, yep, they're fine. They go to their football. We've got their mummy wine culture. They're all sorted. What we need to start focusing on now, where we're going to get growth, is the youngsters. And that was these execs. They're like vultures, man. And it's like they're already, aiming towards the kids. That's where the alcopops come from.
Madness, isn't it? And it's like I saw a thing on Facebook where um it says that the owner of McDonald's doesn't let his children eat the food. The owner of some drink company doesn't allow his family to drink. And it's all these big businesses that are promoting all these unhealthy things.
Yeah.
They wouldn't give it their own loved ones and family, but for money, they're happy to plow it down the young ones' throats that, oh, it's okay, go and binge drink and get smashed every night. Become addicted maybe if you want, and you'll be fine as long as you're giving me money. It's madness.
Absolute madness, and that's it. And it's just, to see it from this side of the fence now, and it's like I want to just scream at people going, this is not good for you. And I know there's a few people, that don't drink that much. Like my partner, my fiance, Jen, she's one, she barely touches it. I mean, I think she's even had one drink since New Year, if that. And because she's one of them that can take it or leave it. She's not bothered. And when she does drink, I don't think I've ever seen her drunk the whole time we've been together. So there are people like that, and she's got three kids that I'm going to be the stepfather to, and it's like I want to try and encourage them. I'm not going to say, no, there's no drinking, because of course they're going to do, whatever we're telling them not to. But it's trying to encourage a healthy attitude towards it, not normalizing it like it was when we kind of grew up, because it's everywhere, and it's
Like
just
my 8-year-old daughter, she sees it as you could have a problem or you could not. So why even put that risk factor in there? And she
that's
said,
quite good.
and
Yeah.
which is fantastic. And she obviously she's had traumatic experience with it, but I don't want it to be a traumatic experience that leads her down that path of addiction. You know what I mean? So I've
Yeah.
always been very open and honest as I can be with her to a point.
Mhm.
Um, but she has taken from my experiences that it could lead to quite catastrophic things. So I'm not even going to bother trying it. And I hope she sticks to that. We'll wait until she's a
Wait till
teenager.
she starts hitting those ages. But I think I was talking to someone the other day. I think attitudes are changing definitely with the youngsters, because, and I think one of the reasons is they don't want to do stupid things that are then caught on video, because everybody's got a video camera in their pocket.
Yeah.
Like this shit that I used to do when I was like 14, 15, 16. If any of that had been recorded, I wouldn't leave the house. So it's mental. So what does the next, say, year, 2 years hold for you then, Liv?
Um, keep expanding my business with different courses and stuff. I'm just currently doing more learning around helping people with borderline personality disorder, which was what DBT was made for, and it's what I had when I was younger. But I do, as soon as I got sober and worked on myself, I don't really have any borderline personality symptoms anymore. I it's it very often can be linked to addiction, and that's why DBT works so well for addicts and stuff. But yeah, I'm doing some more learning around that. So just keep developing on the work that I'm doing and
Mhm.
just live life, enjoy family time. I've just renewed my passport after years and years and years.
Nice. Yeah,
Get on that plane this summer. I am just going to go traveling with the little one and my family and my friends and just keep living and keep saying yes to all the good opportunities that are coming my way and just be grateful.
I love it. I got a new passport last year, and I had long hair when I got my passport picture taken. And I mean, obviously I've cut it now, and it's literally within a month of getting my passport, I cut it. But anyway, I'd had I'd had the passport for 10 years before. It wasn't used once. So I
Yeah.
got it, and I was, yeah, because I was in full blown addiction. So it was just, yeah, it was just,
Exciting, isn't it? Like just little things like that and getting enjoyment out of
yeah,
renewing the
yeah,
passport. It's brilliant. There's so
yeah.
many things to find enjoyment in.
No,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm doing a festival in the summer as well. So I'm doing a talk on addiction and Soul Revolution Festival. So,
Nice.
so that'll be to a few thousand people, and yeah, it's that'll be interesting.
Now tell me the name Sober Coaster Life. So what is Sober Coaster? Like, what does it mean? What's the kind of thought behind that?
So I actually come up with the name a long time ago,
Mhm.
but Sober Coaster for me was just that recovery is a journey of up and down, but it's a roller coaster that we can ride together.
Mm-hmm.
That when you are down, you're not down for very long. You can pull yourself back up. So
Yeah.
in those dips where you want to drink, just remember you can either give into it and keep going and fall off the sober coaster, or just ride those wave of emotions and get back up top. So
Yeah. Cool. I like it. I like it. I was just a bit kind of thinking, is it about like just coasting through sobriety or life, and then? But I like it. Do you know what? I didn't even think of the roller coaster
yeah,
kind of
sober
metaphor.
coaster, they're like the tagline is riding the roller coaster of recovery
Yeah,
together. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
behind it. But yeah.
I love it. So your Instagram is Sober Coaster, just at Sober Coaster, or is it Sober Coaster Life?
It's at Sober Coaster Life. I think something happened where I come off Instagram and I had to add something on the end of it, and I just added live. So yeah, it's Sober.
I'll put the link in the show notes, and then you've got an amazing podcast. Honestly, I know I was like, I know you just started it in, was it December or January? I just want more of it. So you need to be firing them out twice a week. It's so funny, but also, you know what? There's bits in it where it's like I'm laughing my head off, and then it's the real stuff, and I'm like,
Floor. So it's literally just me and my sister sitting in my mum's kitchen.
yeah, with the
Back,
cats. Is there two cats or one cat?
he's just died. The other one has. Yeah, mum
Oh,
has two cats, and
yeah,
yeah, the other one just died. Bless him. Um, but it's literally just me and my sister having a chat, and we generally forget that we're recording,
yeah.
and we don't even know what we've said, and we don't plan it either. So we'll come in, we'll sit down, go right. 2 minutes before we start pressing record, like what shall we chat about today? And then we just kind of go from there. But
But it's
it,
natural. It's natural. It's just two sisters. And then I think the most recent one was just that little spat at the end. And it was like, whoa, where did that come from? And I honestly thought you'd both fallen out by the end of it. So I was like, and then it just cuts off. And I was like, whoa, Liv, Charlotte, what's happened? Are you okay? So,
we've
yeah,
recorded one today, which will come out on Sunday,
yeah,
which is revealing some big news, some big family news. So I
yeah.
won't give it away on here in case people listen to ours as well. But yeah, it's some big shocking news on the one coming
I'll be
up.
tuning in on Sunday night. Well, I'll probably listen to it Monday at work, but yeah. So this one will be coming out Monday morning, if that's cool with you. If
Yeah,
there's
that's right.
anything else you want to put in, so I'll put in your Instagram and then Sister Spat. If there's anything else you want me to drop in there on the show notes, just give me a shout.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
but
right.
yeah,
I've got a piece of cat hair or something on my eyelash and it's driving me mad. That's why I keep messing with my eyelash.
no, it's fine. I mean, I've got two. One's in at the moment, the other one's out. She's a little wanderer as well, but yeah, I couldn't. Do you know what? Poppy is 11. She's been with me 13 different places that I've lived, and I've
Wow.
always taken this is the 13th, so I'll be moving. I'm moving to the 14th because I'm getting married in the summer to Jen, and I'm moving in with her. So that'll be hopefully the last place she'll move for a long time. But she's 11 and she's been 13 places. But honestly, she's been my rock through it all. Whatever was going on, I'd always managed to get food for her. Even if I would always get the vodka first, but then I'd get food for her. But anyway,
When I got sober, I brought two cats as well, and I couldn't be without mine. Those early days of sobriety, having Bowie, my first cat that I had,
yeah.
he was literally therapy for me. I'd sit and talk my thoughts through to the cat. So literally, he was my therapy. He got me through those early days when I got
Well,
back.
they say that whole thing. What is it? If you get a plant for the first year of your sobriety, if you don't kill that, then get a pet, and then get a pet, and then you can start a relationship in your third or fourth year. I'm like, nah, man, you need a pet straight away because like you've got no one else to talk to. So it's
And that's one thing is that I've stayed away from relationships and I'm very happy
yeah, yeah.
my own. It's been a big because when feelings and relationships come in when I hadn't looked, I mean I feel strong enough that I could go into a relationship now, but I'm not even bothered. I'm too independent now.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I dated a little bit on my first couple of years, but it was just like I wasn't ready, and every time I go out, I'd be sitting there having the coffee, and I'd be like, what am I doing here? And then, like halfway through, not halfway through, just the start of my third year, I met Jen, and it was just like, do you know what? It just all the stars aligned, and it just felt right, and yeah, that's what happened. Um, yeah. So, is there anything else you wanted to add, Liv?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know how long I've been talking for. I've probably
It's,
talked better.
it's just over an hour, but I mean, I don't really put a time limit on it, so it's just kind of like once the chat's kind of done and we've got the story. But I think your story is incredible, and I just know it's going to help so many people that are just at all different stages of recovery or sober curious or whatever. So I just think the more people that get their stories out, when I used to go to the meetings and I'd hear people sharing, and I was like, there's people that should be in here listening to this, and I think by doing podcasts like what you're doing, like what I'm doing, and so many others, it's I think it's great, and I think we just need to get keep banging the drum and help people.
And I think my final message would be don't ever give up. If you're stuck in whether you want to call it addiction and alcoholism, drinking problem, or you just don't like where you're at in life,
Hmm.
don't give up. I kept trying and trying, and I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere, and it led me to a very dark path. But
Hmm.
hadn't have, if I had given up, I wouldn't be here today. And now look at me, I'm living this positive, happy, fulfilling life. Don't ever give up. And also, don't ever think that you're too young to get well, if that makes sense. I had that mistake. I thought I was in my early 20s. I thought I've got years left in me.
Yeah.
Educate yourself on the dangers around it all and realize that it doesn't matter what age you are, if it is impacting your life in a negative way, then it's your time. It's your time to get help. So yeah, just love what you're doing, Jimmy. It's
Oh,
fantastic.
thank you. Thank you. I love what you're saying there. I think that's a great place to kind of finish it. So thank you so much for coming on, Liv. I mean, you're a legend on Instagram, so hopefully we'll get this out to a few people. But thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your week and weekend.
Thank you, Jimmy. You too.
Cheers, Liv. Bye bye. Bye bye. Yeah, incredible story. Just to really fall into the depths of such tragedy. You just this is what I mean. Like, addiction doesn't discriminate. It's not just people that are drinking on a park bench with a bottle in a brown paper bag. It affects everyone of all ages, of all genders, races. It really just doesn't discriminate. And you know, as I say, obviously to look at Liv, you wouldn't think she was, you know, an ex-addict, but who does? You know, I mean, maybe I do, I don't know, but it's just one of those things that every person you pass on the street, you don't know their story, you don't know what they're going through. So I hope Liv's story really kind of resonates with a lot of people, because, you know, it doesn't take a lot to get to that kind of level of addiction where you're just, you know, you've pressed the fuck it button and you just don't care. So it's really, yeah, it's really just kind of worth listening to and taking note. I'm not saying that everyone, you know, is destined to end up like Liv, but Liv didn't wake up one morning when she was 14, 15 and decide that that's what she was going to do with her life. It just happened. Circumstances dictated where her life went at that point. You know, just all I can say is that, you know, so proud of her for taking herself out of that hamster wheel, but also that depression and one-track mind for where she was going to end up, to give it one more chance to really, you know, focus one more time. And obviously that paid off, and now, you know, she's helping other people out there. So I just hope that this episode really kind of resonates. I will put a trigger warning in the show notes, but you'll have already seen that by now. But it's a tragically remarkable story, with hope at the end of it. So yeah, thanks for listening, guys. If you can follow me, rate the show, share the show. And you know, if you're going to write a little comment on Instagram, I absolutely love that, or Facebook, but also just drop a little comment or note on the platform that you're listening to your podcast. You know, it just really helps kind of other people see what they're getting in for, whether it's the show for them. So yeah, I'd really appreciate that. And if if anyone's kind of feeling, well, this kind of hit a nerve with me, or you didn't like it or anything like that, send me a DM. You know, I'm open to suggestions and criticism. You know, I've got thick skin. I shook the hands with the devil himself, and I won. So yeah, I can take it. So send it my way. But yeah, thanks, guys. Stay safe, stay sober, and stay supportive. Bye.